Everybody hear me? My volume's a little weird. Okay. Okay. Good. So we're going to continue with the last of the niyamas. So we've been kind of moving through the yamas and the niyamas for the last couple of weeks, and I wanted to give credit to a lot of. I mean, I've read a lot of. Hold on, let me get it so I know. I've read a lot of books about the Yoga Sutra. This one is my very favorite inside the Yoga Sutra, a comprehensive source book for the study and practice of Patanjali's Yoga Sutras by Reverend Jagannath Karara. I'm not so good with spelling. So that's the book. If you want to take a screenshot of it, it's just one of many favorite things that you might be able to read about the Yoga Sutra. And then the other one is on my Kindle, so I can't show you the cover, but it's The Yamas and the Niyamas by Deborah Adele. And she gives a lot of really cool, practical, everyday wisdom. Sometimes the Yoga Sutra is a little esoteric, so she kind of brings it down a few notches for the practicality of the everyday. So I want to read just one thing from her book. Why does it matter to work with and try to develop these practices of the yamas and the niyamas? And I love what she just writes, when working with each of the yamas and the niyamas. So nonviolence creates, and so these are the yamas. Nonviolence creates an aura of peace that protects self and other. Truth creates a spoken word that will always come true. Non-stealing creates abundance. Non-excess creates great vitality. Non-possessiveness creates knowledge of experience. And the niyamas, when we work with them, purity brings clarity. Contentment brings joy. Self-discipline brings refinement. Self-study brings freedom. And surrender, the one we'll talk about today, brings harmony. And I love to just think of the yamas and the niyamas kind of bringing something into our lives, because a lot of times when we think of them, they're practices, they're things that we're working with, and they can feel heavy sometimes, that like a task or a burden that we're trying to kind of create something that's difficult, but really to understand why we're working with these. Don't those sound like beautiful things that we want in our lives, right? So today we're going to work with the last of the niyamas. Ishvara Pranidhana is the last of them. Ishvara means a supreme being or God or divine energy or whatever. It could be life, whatever that word kind of represents to you. And then Pranidhana means to fix upon or to devote to or surrender to. So to surrender and devote our energies to a higher power, or to the connection of all things, to the source of life, to grace, however you want to word it. Okay, so that's really what Ishvara Pranidhana is all about. And a lot of times when we think of the word surrender, it has a passivity to it. There's a sense of, okay, now I give up. But that's not at all what surrender in this way is about. It's actually it's not passive, it's very active. It's an active engagement with life, and creating a sense of being fully present in your life, which requires a lot of courage. To be engaged in your life takes a lot of courage. So the feeling of Ishvara Pranidhana is to move into the flow of your life, and to be in the present moment. This requires a lot of trust, especially when we think about things that we have no control over. When we have to bring ourselves into faith and trust, it can be very challenging, but this is really the essence of Ishvara Pranidhana. So when we release control, we have this false sense of being able to control everything around us. And control, I'm sure I'm not the only one who struggles with this in whatever way you feel like you need to maintain control. But it creates a sense of rigidity and a narrowing of our perspective. It puts armor on us. And really the goal of Ishvara Pranidhana, this sense of surrendering to life is to create to allow our vulnerability to be open and available. So being in the flow isn't always so easy. So Doug Keller, who is a wonderful yoga teacher, I have studied with him. He uses the analogy of, think of us as chunks of ice floating around in a river. That the goal of Ishvara Pranidhana is to melt ourselves, to lose the sense that we are a separate entity flowing in the river, but to dissolve that which prevents us from just being in the flow of the river, becoming the river ourselves. So when we have this sense of controlling, we often contract. There's a deep sense of contraction in our thinking. We become more closed-minded. We contract in our bodies. We contract in our breath. So our practices that create expansion and spaciousness can be a really beautiful tool for helping us be more fully present in the flow. So another aspect of Ishvara Pranidhana is acceptance, accepting what is, instead of trying to always, beat the thing that we want to change. Maybe we sometimes just need to find more acceptance. So the Serenity Prayer, being open to what is instead of wishing things were different than they are. So when we do this, we cultivate a lot of both the balance of effort and surrender. We create a sense of deep strength where we have the perseverance and the courage to open ourselves up to being in the flow, to surrender and be vulnerable. But we also, that requires a lot of strength to stay engaged in that process, but it also requires deep softness to open up into the flow and adapt. So this balance that we're always seeking in our asana practice of being both soft and hard, being both resolute and adaptable. This is what we gain through our practice to help us devote and release our ego. So one thing I read that was very interesting was in the Yoga Sutra, very little was written about Ishvara Pranidhana in this book. And he said basically that dissolving the ego is very difficult because the ego wants to hang on for all its might. And so if we fight the ego, the image that the ego receives when it's trying to be dissolved is one of annihilation, that the ego thinks that if it lets go, that it will be annihilated, cease to exist. Whereas the true essence of Ishvara Pranidhana is to recognize the connection to the divine and to the flow of life, so that if we dissolve the ego, we are not annihilating anything, but rather we are coming home into a deeper connection of all things. So this is an easier path of the ego to surrender into the divine than to feel like it is being released into nothingness. I thought that was an interesting perspective on the ego. So what practices does one do to help us cultivate Ishvara Pranidhana? We do them all the time in our asana practice. So this sense of balancing effort and surrender, we're doing this in every single posture we come into. The practices of yielding that I know are strange at first, that you all have been studying with me a while. So we know this feeling of being able to yield, which is different than collapse and kind of passively surrendering. We have an active aspect of surrender where we connect into the earth and we let our bodies receive. So this sense of yielding, which comes married to breath, working with being able to release the exhale fully, not have that sense of control about the breath, the way we stay in our flow state while we're breathing and moving in our asana practice or any form of exercise that you might choose to do. And then, of course, present moment awareness, which we're cultivating by this deep sense of interoception on our mat. So I'll just tell you one other quick thing. When I was giving birth to my eldest daughter, I read this thing about a good image to have, and it really worked for me, was to imagine that a baby cat, a kitten, when it's being carried around by its mother, the mother's jaws are around the kitten's scruff, right? And if the kitten fights to be held, the mouth, the jaws of the mom will kind of clamp down on the kitten's neck, and it can hurt. Whereas if the kitten is docile and just goes with the flow, then it doesn't hurt. So sometimes that being able to surrender is that, like, can you be in the clutches of something and allow yourself to let go? And then with my second birth, I had a whole different kind of visualization that helped me, was to imagine that I am the ocean, that I am the flow, I am all the waters of the world. And those two things really helped me in this state of contraction that birth is. And of course, maybe you're not giving birth today, right? But when we resist something, if any of those analogies, melting ice into a flow of river, relaxing into the clutch of a mother cat's jaw, if any of these things help you, try to find visuals that help you to surrender. Okay. All right. So let's sit up straight and tall and take a moment to relax your body, to find a comfortable posture to sit in. And notice your posture as you close your eyes. See if you can pay attention to the alignment in your body, that feeling of when you do have good alignment, do you feel a sense of efficiency and ease in your body? Can you come into your breathing? And as you do this, can you feel as though the exhale can fully release, that you have the capacity to let all your breath go without any force or push? Can you open up yourself to let your breath out? And can you notice that the breath in can just arrive, that you don't have to pull anything, you don't have to push anything? That if you make yourself the conduit, the breath arrives. Relax your shoulders and keep your face as passive as possible. Softness. And see if you can, on the bottom, the end of your exhale, just feel into that very small pause. It doesn't have to be long. Don't strain yourself by holding too long. But can you notice the quiet, the surrender? What happens to you at that bottom of your exhale? So you can return to some beautiful, normal breathing. If you like a little tiny pause at the end of the exhale, by all means. How do you experience the divine? How do you experience fixing yourself, devoting yourself, surrendering yourself to divine energy? And fill in the blank if that word doesn't work for you. How do you experience the divine? How do you offer yourself to life? What does it feel like to be in flow? What moves you toward grace? And how can you embody the feeling of trust? Place your palms at your heart and bow in. Offer an intention. Release your hands. Let's find ourselves coming onto our back on our mat. And as you do, notice, where you're sitting there for a little while. So notice if your body needs to stretch and move in any specific way to feel comfortable. So allow yourself to lengthen. Maybe arms overhead, maybe that doesn't feel good to you, and a different position would feel better to you. So just to allow the opening of your practice. Move in any way that serves the sense of allowing yourself to become free. Okay, when you're ready, bring your knees into your chest and rock a little bit, swaying from side to side. Let's go ahead and circle the knees, kind of moving the knees one direction a few times and then switch after 2 or 3 times and move the other direction. Sorry, I'm just muting everybody. There's just a little bit of ambient noise. There we go. All right, now open up your knees away from each other. And then bring your knees back toward each other, just feeling into that state of openness in your hip joints. Right knee into your chest, left leg long on the ground, move around in your ankles, coming home into the sensations of your body. Notice if the head likes to control everything, so release your skull. Notice if you're even slightly picking your head up off the ground. Left knee into the chest, right leg long, feel move, feet keep moving, feel the weight of your head, relax the shoulders. Pay attention in your practice today, feet on the ground, now wide on the mat, rock left and right. See if you can pay attention to the ways in which your desire to control your postures, to control your breath, might create rigidity within you. Can you seek the balance of being able to have effort, but balance it with the ease? All right, spread your limbs like a star outward on the ground. A big, full inhale, reaching. Exhale, knees into your chest, head picks up. One, twice more. Feel that sense of flow as you open the breath and body. And as you exhale, close up and snug up the body. One more time. Feeling that beautiful, spacious self. Exhale, curling in, let your back round. Release your head onto the ground, roll over onto your side, and come up onto your hands and knees. All right, so before we go anywhere, yield here. See if you can feel the weight of your hands drop, the softness in your elbows, drop weight into your knees, surrender into the earth, and with that connection, start to feel the cat-cows come. So arching and rounding the spine, making sure that your breath is moving with you. Often, if we are tending to try to control our experiences, we control the breath. If you're a habitual breath holder, notice as much as you can. And sometimes just working with the breath can ease and thaw out some of that control that we feel needed in the mind. right, so move around, sway your hips, roll around in your pelvis, move your shoulders, move your neck. Anything that helps you feel a little juicy and free. Then come back down towards child's pose. At first, let it be a very active posture. Maybe kind of knead the ground, walking your fingers with one arm a little forward and then the other. So you're stretching open through the shoulders. And then once you feel a little open there, melt into your posture. Back off the stretch if you need to. Let your ribs kind of rest in the basket of your thighs. Soften your skull toward the ground. Let the breath travel in your body. Child's pose is such a beautiful pose for surrender. What can you release here? All right, walk the hands over to the left side, feeling that sense of stretch and space through the right side of your body. Let the breath take advantage of all this openness and fill up those right lungs. Back to the other side. Moving over to the right, drop some weight into your sit bones. Feel the neck relax. Breathe into the side body. Come back to center. Come back up onto all fours. And move around in your spine a little bit if you need. Inhale, arm lifting to the sky. Exhale and drop that shoulder down. Gaze toward the ground. Open up the back rib cage as best as you can. Keep melting the head. Oftentimes we have parts of our bodies that don't give up very easily, right? They want to do work even when it's not their turn. Inhale, reach that arm to the sky. Place the hand down onto the ground. Change sides. So discover where those places in your body is. So a lot of times we hold a lot of tension in our neck and shoulders. The traps are one of those groups of muscles that just like to do, even when it's not their job to do. So see if that might be a place that you have to pay attention to and surrender more. Sometimes the simple act of weighting our head if we're on the ground, reach that arm back up to the sky, hand comes down onto the ground. Curl your toes under and lift to dog pose. Notice sometimes it's our hands. Sometimes we hold a lot of tension. It really can be anywhere in your body. So pay attention to the places that have a sense of tension, tautness in them when we're trying to control something. Some people curl their toes under. Some people lock up their throat. Some people strain their eyes. So just notice what your pattern is when you're trying to stay in control. Feel the femur bones lift up and back. Can you yield here? Give your weight. Rebound that weight so you stretch through your body. So it's a yield, and then it's a push, and it's a reach. If you lock your elbows, you cannot yield. If you lock your knees, you cannot yield. If you lock your breath, you cannot yield. You feel the bottom of your exhale in this posture. All right, let's walk our feet forward. Come into Uttanasana, relax your neck. Anywhere that you feel like you might hold tension here, wag your tail, shake your shoulders. Inhale for a halfway lift. The spine gets long, the legs stretch free, melt, and fold again. Rise up, coming to the sky with your arms when you feel ready. So take your time. If the transition to upward is difficult for you, you can always squeeze your hands and legs to help your blood pressure. Bring your arms up, lean back a little bit, lift the heart. So courage, trust, where does that live in your body? Open up your cactus arms, feel the back body, have a little engagement. And then release your hands down. Give your hands a shake. We can often hold tension in lots of places, but if your hands are one of them, sometimes just shaking things out can be very helpful. Let's shake our whole body. Okay, so there's no rules of how you have to move here. You can jump a little bit. All right, and then pause in Tadasana. Feel the sense of yielding. So if you're not sure the feeling of yielding, find the opposition of that first. So let's try propping. So push off the ground, try to lift yourself off the earth, lock your knees. Notice the lifted chest might be very tight. You might not be breathing very well. And then stop that, right? And now do just the opposite, collapse. Like you're slumped, that you're not in the flow of life. Like this is a type of surrender that's a collapse, not a surrender into the flow. And now find something right in between the two of them where we're not propping off the earth, we're not collapsing and slumping toward the earth. We have relationship. Okay, so unlock the knees. Feel your breath. Imagine that your pelvic floor is your diaphragm instead of your actual diaphragm. Imagine that your knees are your diaphragm. Imagine the soles of your feet are your diaphragm. So see if you can let the breath penetrate down to the soles of your feet. The knees are unlocked. Sense of crown over the weight of your pelvis, which is supporting you. Give your weight into the earth and then feel that slight rebound. So it's not a propping up away from the earth, but it's those values of being able to feel downward energy and then moving into upward energy. Feel that you're in the flow of those energy movement patterns, that you are in the flow of relationship with the earth. Notice that you can't do this without breathing, right? If we hold our breath, oftentimes that sense of flow just stops, right? It's our essential flow is our breath. So see what you can do through our practice to maintain that. Notice if you're trying to control what happens to the breath. Reach arms up, take a breath in. As you exhale, fold forward and relax your neck. Inhale for a halfway lift, extending the spine long. Melt and fold again. Step your left foot back, right foot comes forward to a lunge. Start to feel the flow of your breathing as you straighten and bend your front knee. Let your eyes be passive. There's nothing to control with your vision. You can keep your eyes open or shut, but they're passive. They're not searing into a gaze point. They're just relaxed. How is the flow of your breathing? When you feel ready, ground your legs into a lunge and rise up. Bring the arms in a place where the body feels free. Support. So know that we're actively engaged in our surrender. It's not a passive action. There's activity. Yield your feet. Push off the earth, rising up through your spine. Feel that the flow of your breath is still here. Is there anywhere in your body that's trying to control the posture? Soften where you can. Support where is needed. Release the hands down. Back foot comes forward. Fold and relax your neck. Halfway lift. Spine gets longer. Open up the backs of the legs. Step your right foot back. Left foot is now forward. Lunging here. Enjoy the sensations that you feel. All right. What moves you towards grace? As we flow with our breath and with our movements, what moves you towards grace? Grounding. Feel those roots. When you feel ready, coming on up. Bring the arms anywhere. What supports the breath best? Okay, so be a servant to the breath. Be a servant to the flow of your breath. Let yielding be one of the primary sensations you're seeking in postures. Can you balance the effort with the ease? Is there a sense of stability? Is there a sense of engagement that you're co-creating the pose with your breath? All right, hands back down onto the ground, back to a dog pose. Spine is spacious and free. Yield, push, and reach. Feel into the breath, maybe feel that little tiny pause at the bottom of the exhale. What are you surrendering to? So what is your sense of that higher power that you affix to? So what's the purpose of your surrender? When you work hard and dedicate your efforts to something, what is that something? Is it to help others? Is it to be in the flow of life? Do you have a sense of divinity? All right, so inner spiral those thighs, crown, tail, heels, spacious. Can you have both stability and ease here? Where is the ease? Is there any part of your body trying to control the posture? Can you feel the difference between effort and a sense of tightness or bound energy? Knees down onto the ground first. If you need it, roll the shoulders. Our neck and shoulders are often places that we find tight unnecessarily for different postures, so give them a good roll. And then inhale, lift up to cobra pose. Exhale and melt to come back down. Again, rising up, feel the beautiful breath. Exhale and release. Move your blocks out of the way if they're in the way. Left knee coming up towards your left armpit. Sphinx pose with your arms, stay low. Feel into that hip, let it surrender a bit here. Breathing deep. Okay, cross the right arm to the left side of your mat. Open up into a twist here. Let your head relax on the ground. Hands relaxed on the ground. Knee leaves the floor as much as you need to for comfort in your spine. Can you breathe into the fullness of your chest while melting your skull? And then surrender back over. Switch sides. Right knee comes up high toward your armpit, forearms on the ground. Stay low with your torso. Feel into that hip. Just let it compress a little bit into that new position. And when you're ready, left arm crosses over to the right side of your mat, twist open, let the back of your right hand rest on the ground. Knee leaves the ground, your right knee leaves the ground. Feel your breath. Surrender your skull. Notice when you pay attention, when your head is on the ground. Isn't it interesting that when you remember to surrender your skull, there actually something needs to surrender? Do you have that feeling that your head wasn't fully dropped? This is pretty typical where we hold tension unnecessarily. This is our innate wanting to control. I come back up onto all fours, swish and swish and swish your spine. Curl your toes under, lift to dog pose. Spacious here. Let's take our feet wider apart to the edges of your mat. Turn your toes in a little bit. Feel that inner spiral. Open up into the wide body. You can even take your hands to the edges of your mat. Okay, feel that new sensation of width and space. Open up some room. Okay, walk our feet forward. Come into Uttanasana. Rising on it. Hands come down, center of the heart. Tadasana. You can keep your hands here in Samastitihi or release your hands down. Again, feel into the yielding. Try to notice where tightness, control, tension tends to live in your body. Where are the ice cubes that need to melt? Can you relax your belly? So I'll put one hand right below your sternum, at the bottom of your sternum where your diaphragm is, and the other hand somewhere on your belly. Befriend your soft self, soft inner places. Feel your diaphragm move. Unlock your knees. Melt your skull and the base of your skull. Release the arms. Lift the arms all the way up. Look up, lean back a little bit if it feels good. Lifting the heart. And then release the hands. Take your legs wide on the mat, so turn sideways on your mat. Bring your hands to come down on blocks or on the ground, whatever feels good to you. Wide-legged stance. Okay, so inversions are a wonderful place to begin feeling that sense of surrender, especially passive ones. So put your head on a block or multiple blocks or the ground. Okay, so wherever you go, be there. Okay, so that you have a sense of giving some weight, just a little bit of weight to your head. And you can try not to be on your forehead. You can be right on your hairline or on the top of your head, depending on how low you're going. But try not to arch your neck at all. Neutral neck. Shoulders away from the ears. Feel that sense of engagement with the posture. We're lifting our quadriceps, spreading our toes. So we're not collapsing. We are having engagement, but we're yielding. Give the weight of your hands, your head, and your feet to the earth. Surrender into the inversion. Pick up your head, put your hands on the floor or on blocks, and we're going to drop weight into our right foot. Bend your right knee, stretch open through the left inner thigh. The chest is broad and free. Shoulders down away from the ears. And then coming back to center, over to the other side. I reach through the heart space, stretch through the inner thigh. Feel the compression in your hip and knee to whatever place your body goes. And then come back up, a wide, deep squat, so our toes can turn out to match where our knees are. Sink your sit bones down, have your spine long, elbows on top of or inside knees. Stretch open into the feeling of your inner thighs opening. All right, and then come all the way up to standing star. Find your breath. Exhale, come into goddess pose. Rising up. Coming on down. Feel those values of the body, that downward energy. One more time, lifting up. This time we'll stay. As you come to your whatever depth you're coming into here, there's no expectations. Open up your chest, relax your neck and shoulders. Notice how you want to be in the posture. Is there a feeling of surrender somewhere? Can you yield your weight? Is your breath still able to go very low in the body, wide in the body? Rise on up. Turn your right foot out, triangle pose. Stretch your arm. You can put your hand on a block if you feel like doing that. Shoulders away from the ears, the chest is open and free. Remember your yielding. Give weight into your feet. Unlock your joints. Feel the spaciousness in your breath. From here, bend your knees, stretch your arm over your head. Feel the grounding of your legs. A sense of spaciousness. Rise all the way up. Turn to the second side. Tip your hip. Come into triangle pose. What I mean by tip your hip is that the pelvis does not stay square. We tip our pelvis over to the left to come into this posture. Put your hand on your leg or a block. Be so light. So we're light in our bodies. We're light in our weight of our hand. Okay. We have a feeling that the body is connecting to the earth. So we have a yielding that happens with our feet. Unlock the knees so you can receive that energy up through the body. Shoulders away from the ears. And then when you feel ready, go ahead and find your way into Parsvakonasana. Bend your knee, elbow on your knee, or hand can stay on a block. Open up and lengthen here. Let the legs ground. Feel the yielding. Give to the earth gives back. Check in with the neck and shoulders. Imagine you could put your head back on something to rest. Where does the body want to control? Can you let your breath be full? Can you feel that balance of the effort and surrender? Rise all the way back up. Turn your feet straight. Okay, we're going to move from one side to the other. So feel a sense of flow in this. There's no right or wrong way to move. But we can have that feeling of moving from one side over to the other side. Try to stay in your legs. So instead of just being up high in straight legs and kind of robotically moving from one side to the other, see if you can move energy through your body or even through space. Relax your shoulders. How do you move grace into you? It's not a matter of what it looks like. It's a matter of how it feels. When you feel ready, drop down into that goddess. Lift your chest. Yield and move into the breath. Effort and surrender and balance and harmony. Rising on up, turn your feet straight. Come back down like we started. Head surrendering. You can put it on a block or let it dangle in space. You can maybe reach the floor with your head, doesn't matter. Find your breathing. Melt through your skull. Engage your quads. Feel the feet yield. Melt your neck. Soften your shoulders. Breathe into your side ribs. Let your diaphragm move. Now toe your feet in a little bit and turn back to the front of your mat for a dog pose. A long, spacious spine. I'm going to come into pigeon pose. So you can lift your right leg up in the air and then swing that leg through. Or you can come onto your back and do reverse pigeon pose. I'm going to pause and get my support because I like to do this pose with a blanket. We're going to kind of hang out in this posture. So try to maneuver whatever props you need so that you're very comfortable. So sometimes actually adding more props is a very helpful thing underneath your hip. Okay. So come into your posture. Right leg is forward or you're on your back. Before you go down, rise up. Feel the sense of space. breath. And then we're coming down to rest in pigeon pose. Let your skull surrender onto something so our head can be on a block or on our hands or on the floor. Make sure that your joints are happy. Okay, so we want support to enable us to be in this posture with a sense of nervous system safety. Okay, so when our joints are feeling in danger, that is not a nervous system safety feeling. So support yourself to your SI joint, your hip joint, your knee joint, your ankle joint, even your low back joints are all feeling safe and supported. And then once you have that feeling, rest. Melt your skull. Melt the base of your skull. Let your jaw and tongue relax. The inner walls of your throat surrender. Move into the breath and move into yielding. Scan your body for anywhere that you feel like you're trying to control the posture with. Melt everything, all the bits of ice, melt into the river. Notice if there's anywhere that is like the mama cat with her teeth in you. Can you melt and surrender? Come out of that side slowly. And find your way into the next side. If you're on your back, reverse pigeon pose with your left foot on top of your right knee. If you're in pigeon pose, your left foot is forward. Take your time to find anything you need to support you here. So do you have enough support to make your SI joint, your hip joint, your knee joint, your ankle joint in a very happy place? Okay, try not to be on the edge. It's okay to feel that you're at your edge with your muscle lengthening, but try not to let your joints feel like they are on the precipice of danger. Okay, so we want to back away and have enough support where we feel that our nervous system can surrender. Being in fight or flight in some joint in your body is not conducive to surrender. So let's allow that support to happen, including your head. And then work with the breath. Scan your body from head to toe. Notice any places that might be tense unnecessarily, guarding unnecessarily. Remove your armor and move into your vulnerability in a safe way. The base of the skull, jaw, the walls of the throat, the neck and shoulders, the fingers and hands, the diaphragm, the hip themselves. Find your spots that need to move more fully into the flow and see what you can do. Train your mind onto these places. Give yourself breath and yielding. Remember to have a broadening of perspective. We're widening our capacities, learning to be adaptable. Let's find our way slowly coming out of that posture. Okay. And sit on the edge of a blanket. Stretch your legs straight out and grab a strap. Paschimottanasana, feet are together or hip width apart. Lift up through your spine. Try not to have a sense of rigidity. And start to move forward. And the key here is we're going to, once you get to a place, where you're moving forward in a safe place with your spine, where we're not collapsing down or slumping back onto our tailbone, but we have that slight anterior tilt of the pelvis, a spacious spine. And once you're there, be there, and then drop your chin. Rest your spine a little bit. You don't have to be so strident. Let the shoulders soften. Come on up and take the legs wider apart. No more strap, but now you probably need blocks. Okay, so you can stack up blocks and then arms so that your head can rest in your hands. If you go lower than that, perhaps your head can rest on any, you just stack whatever the height is that you need underneath you so that your forehead is resting on blocks or hands. We're still on the edge of that blanket. Thighs are engaged, kneecaps are pointing straight up, extending your feet. So flex the toes, stretch out through the heels. And again, let your head surrender. Relax your neck. How's your breath? How's your ability to be in the flow? All right, release the legs. Bring your knees toward your chest. Relax a moment. And then choose a restorative pose, anything that you'd like for a couple of minutes before Shavasana. So this can be a twist over a bolster, Supta Baddha Konasana, Supta Virasana, Viparita Karani. I mean, there's so many postures. You can put your legs up the wall or lay with in heart bench with a block underneath your chest, another under your head. So just choose something that feels very restorative to you. You can even move into Shavasana right now and just have a longer Shavasana. We won't be here a terribly long time. So find what works for you. Breathing well. Once you get yourself situated, Shavasana, which we're beginning here in a restorative pose, is the ultimate posture of Ishvara Pranidhana. Right? So we practice every time we step on our mat and do Shavasana. We practice this very difficult art of letting go. So start wherever is a natural place for you to start. Find a place in your body that surrenders easily. Start there. Notice how good it feels to drop your weight. To let go of tension. Have a sense of freedom. Breathing deeply. Letting those exhales be full. If you enjoy The pause at the bottom of the exhale. Enjoy that. Move into places that are harder for you to relax. If you have discovered in your practice places that hold tension easily, go there now. Let's transition this into Shavasana as you feel ready. Maybe you want to stay right where you are. If you're cold, make sure you bring warmth into your body. Cover yourself. Notice once you settle, if there's any place that needs more support. If you find any resistance to letting go, explore that sensation. Gently bring your breath like a balm. Know that ice melts slowly sometimes, so dissolve as slowly as you need to. Keep the base of the skull soft, shoulders relaxed. Allow any tension around your skull to release. The eyes surrender. Relax your jaw. Deepen your breathing. Be very slow in creating movement. Eventually, we're going to find our way into our side. Coming up to sit when you feel ready. And again, what moves you towards grace? How do you offer yourself to life? Let's offer our practice, our energy, our breath. Bring your energy forth to another. Namaste. Thank you, everyone.
Jenny, could you hold that book up again?